The Silent Vanguard. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of Titan Base Alpha, her reflection ghosting against the reinforced windows that looked out over Saturn's largest moon. Behind the glass, massive construction bays stretched for kilometers, their structures deliberately built into the moon's natural caverns. Here, hidden from prying eyes, humanity's greatest achievement was nearing completion. The HSS Nemesis wasn't just a warship. It represented 20 years of reverse-engineered technology, breakthrough innovations, and humanity's relentless drive to survive. The ship's quantum-locked hull-absorbed sensor sweeps like a black hole devours light. Its neural-linked weapon systems could think and react faster than organic gunners. But most importantly, it carried humanity's secret weapon, the Cascade Drive. "Final systems check is complete, Admiral," reported Captain James Rodriguez, his holographic form materializing beside her. "The quantum core is stable, and the AI integration is at 99.8% efficiency." Chen nodded, her eyes never leaving the massive vessel. The Concordat, a coalition of advanced alien species that controlled most of the known galaxy, thought they had humanity figured out. They saw Earth as nothing more than a primitive backwater, useful only for its abundant resources and cheap labor. Their automated survey ships would pass through the solar system every few years, scanning for signs of advancement, and always leaving satisfied that humans posed no threat to their dominion. They never bothered to look deeper. When the first Concordat ship crashed in the Gobi Desert 30 years ago, humanity learned they weren't alone in the universe. More importantly, they learned they were hopelessly outmatched. But instead of accepting their fate as another subjugated species, Earth's nations did something unprecedented. They united in secret. The Titan Initiative was born from that unity. While the world's governments maintained a facade of political division and technological stagnation, underground facilities across the solar system worked tirelessly to understand and improve upon alien technology. Every crashed scout ship, every salvaged piece of tech, every intercepted transmission, all of it fed into the project. The Concordat's patrol fleet just passed Neptune, Rodriguez reported, his hologram flickering slightly. "Standard sweep pattern. They'll be gone in 6 hours." Chen allowed herself a small smile. They still think we're decades away from achieving spaceflight beyond Mars. Their arrogance will be their undoing. The Nemesis represented more than just military might. It carried the hopes of every human who dreamed of a future where Earth wasn't just another entry in the Concordat's catalog of potential conquests. Its revolutionary Cascade Drive could generate microscopic wormholes, allowing for instant travel across vast distances. The quantum-locked hull made it virtually invisible to conventional sensors, and its weapon systems. Chen had watched the test footage enough times to know they would rewrite the rules of space warfare. "All department heads report ready for Phase 1, Rodriguez continued. "The crew is assembled and waiting for your word." Chen finally turned from the window, her expression resolute. The Concordat believes they've seen everything humanity has to offer. They think we're predictable, manageable. They've grown comfortable in their superiority. She paused, allowing herself one last look at the magnificent vessel. It's time to show them how wrong they are. Across Titan Base Alpha, klaxons began to sound. The massive construction bays slowly opened like mechanical flowers blooming in the void. The HSS Nemesis, humanity's silent vanguard, prepared for its maiden voyage. As Chen walked to the command center, she thought about the message they would send to the Concordat. Not through words or declarations, but through action. Humanity wasn't just reaching for the stars. They were about to show the galaxy that the age of Concordat dominion was over. And it would begin not with a bang, but with silence. The silence of a predator stalking its prey. The time had come to rewrite the rules of the game. And humanity, after decades of preparation, was finally ready to play. Breaking chains. The Concordat's 13th Fleet hung in high orbit above Proxima Centauri, their crystalline ships reflecting the red dwarf's light like enormous diamonds. High Admiral Zextal stood on the command deck of the flagship Eternal Dawn, his 4 eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the mining operations below. Thousands of enslaved beings from dozens of species toiled in the mines, extracting rare elements crucial to the Concordat's technological supremacy. Another productive cycle, High Admiral, reported Sub-Commander Ven, her scales shifting color with pride. Production is up 12% from last rotation. Zextal didn't respond immediately. Something felt wrong. The quantum sensors had been reporting strange fluctuations for the past several hours. Nothing concrete, just ghost readings that disappeared as quickly as they appeared. He had dismissed them initially, but centuries of military service had taught him to trust his instincts. The void erupted. Where empty space had existed moments before, a massive vessel materialized. Its hull was darker than the space around it, seeming to bend light rather than reflect it. The ship's design was unlike anything in the Concordat database, its lines aggressive yet elegant, predatory yet precise. Unknown vessel. Ven's scales had shifted to alarm red. No warning, no transition signature. It's impossible. Zextal's mandibles clicked in agitation. Launch intercept squadrons. All ships, battle formation Delta. Target that. His orders were cut short as the mysterious vessel opened fire. But instead of conventional energy weapons or mass drivers, cascading waves of quantum distortion rippled out from the ship. Where they touched Concordat vessels, reality itself seemed to hiccup. Shield generators failed as localized physics went haywire. Weapon systems crashed as their targeting computers encountered mathematical impossibilities. Aboard the HSS Nemesis, Admiral Chen watched the battle unfold with cold satisfaction. The Cascade weapons were performing even better than the simulations had predicted. "Status report," she commanded. Quantum disruption field at 87% efficiency, Captain Rodriguez reported from his tactical station. Enemy shields are completely ineffective against our attacks. Their weapon systems are showing critical failures across all frequencies. The mining colony. Chen's voice carried an edge of concern. Automated systems have already teleported all slave workers to our containment decks. The ship's AI responded. Medical teams are standing by to begin treatment and processing. Chen nodded. The rescue of the enslaved workers wasn't just a humanitarian mission. It was psychological warfare. Every freed slave would spread the word. Humanity had arrived, and they weren't just fighting the Concordat. They were dismantling their entire system of oppression. On the Eternal Dawn, chaos reigned. Half the fleet's ships had been rendered combat ineffective without taking a single direct hit. The rest were struggling with systems that seemed to have forgotten basic laws of physics. Zextal watched in horror as the unknown vessel methodically disabled his most powerful warships with technology that shouldn't exist. "High Admiral," Ven's voice shook. "We're receiving a transmission." Admiral Chen's hologram materialized on the Eternal Dawn's bridge. Her expression was neutral, but her eyes burned with controlled fury. "High Admiral Zextal, I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the human spaceship Nemesis. For centuries, your Concordat has enslaved countless species, believing your technological superiority made you untouchable." She paused, allowing her words to sink in. "That era is over. Humanity has remained silent, watching, learning, and preparing. Today marks the beginning of a new age, one where the Concordat's tyranny will be systematically dismantled." Zextal's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation among his species. You're human. Impossible. Your species barely has orbital capability. A convenient fiction we allowed you to believe, Chen replied. Your arrogance made it easy. While you saw what you expected to see, we reversed engineered every piece of technology we could find. Then we improved upon it. The vessel you face today represents humanity's response to your empire of slavery and oppression. As if to emphasize her point, another wave of quantum disruption washed over the remaining Concordat ships, leaving them drifting and powerless. The HSS Nemesis moved with impossible grace, its dark hull still drinking in the light of Proxima Centauri. "This message will spread across your empire," Chen continued. "Every slave race, every subjugated species will know that the Concordat is not invincible. They will know that humanity stands ready to help break their chains." Her hologram fixed Zextal with a steel gaze. "The age of Concordat dominion is ending. This is only the beginning." The transmission cut off, leaving the Concordat leaders staring at empty space. Moments later, the Nemesis vanished as suddenly as it had appeared, leaving behind a graveyard of disabled warships and thousands of missing slaves. In the following days, despite the Concordat's best efforts to suppress the information, word of the battle spread through underground networks across the galaxy. The message was clear. Humanity had emerged from silence, armed with technology that made the Concordat's greatest weapons look primitive. Hope, long suppressed, began to stir in the hearts of countless enslaved beings. The chains were beginning to break. The art of fear. In the Grand Hall of the Concordat Supreme Council on Axiom Prime, panic had replaced certainty. The massive chamber, usually a symbol of unwavering power, now buzzed with nervous energy as reports from across the Empire painted an increasingly disturbing picture. "Another manufacturing hub has gone silent," announced Councillor Dren, his crystalline form flickering with anxiety. "That's the fourth this cycle. The human vessel appears, disables our defenses, frees the workers, and vanishes. They're making us look powerless." High Chancellor Vorkath, leader of the Concordat Council, stood at the central podium. The ancient being's exoskeleton showed signs of stress fracturing, a rare sight among his species. "The issue isn't just military," he growled. "It's psychological. Every successful strike by this Aza's nemesis feeds the growing rebellion." On the massive holographic display dominating the chamber's center, red markers indicated systems where unrest had been reported. The pattern was clear. Everywhere the human ship appeared, rebellion followed in its wake. But more disturbing were the yellow markers, showing systems where no human activity had been detected, yet resistance movements were springing up nonetheless. Aboard the Nemesis, Admiral Chen reviewed the latest intelligence reports with satisfaction. "Area. Analysis of Concordat communication intercepts." The A's response was immediate. "Chatter indicates widespread panic among Concordat leadership. Their attempts to suppress information about our activities have backfired. The mystery surrounding our capabilities has generated numerous rumors, most of which exaggerate our power significantly." Chen smiled. Fear was proving to be their most potent weapon. The Nemesis' hit-and-run attacks were carefully chosen not just for military value, but for maximum psychological impact. Every freed slave carried stories of the dark ship that appeared from nowhere, wielding impossible weapons that turned Concordat technology against itself. Captain Rodriguez, status of Operation Whisper. Rodriguez's hologram materialized, showing him in what appeared to be an alien marketplace. The quantum disguise field made him appear as a member of the local species. "The underground networks are exceeding expectations. Admiral, former slaves from different species are coordinating resistance movements. They're using methods we taught them to bypass Concordat surveillance." The human strategy was multi-layered. While the Nemesis demonstrated the Concordat's vulnerability through direct action, freed slaves were being trained in sabotage, encryption, and guerrilla tactics. Each liberation added to a growing army of resistance fighters, all using human-provided techniques to chip away at Concordat control. On the industrial world of Nexus VI, Foreman Clotar watched his workforce with growing unease. The massive production facilities had once operated with machine-like efficiency, fear keeping the slave laborers in line. Now, though nothing obvious had changed, something felt different. The slaves moved differently, communicated with subtle gestures he couldn't quite catch. They were waiting for something. His fears proved prophetic when the facility's power grid failed simultaneously across all sectors, a feat that should have been impossible given the redundant systems. In the darkness, he heard something that hadn't been heard in the facility for centuries. laughter. Similar scenes played out across Concordat space. Resistance cells, armed with human encryption technology and tactics, coordinated strikes against critical infrastructure. The Nemesis would appear in one sector, drawing Concordat forces, while multiple rebellions erupted in others. The Empire's resources were stretched thin trying to maintain control. The art of fear cuts both ways, Chen mused, watching reports of another successful uprising. The Concordat used fear to control others for centuries. Now they're learning what it feels like to be afraid. Aria's avatar shimmered. Analysis suggests we've reached a critical threshold. Concordat control systems are showing cascading failures. Their efforts to maintain order are actually accelerating the collapse of their authority. In the depths of space, the HSS Nemesis continued its campaign. Each appearance was calculated for maximum impact, each disappearance timed to fuel speculation and fear. The ship's quantum-locked hull had gained mythical status among Concordat forces. Crews would abandon their posts at the mere hint of sensor anomalies that might indicate its presence. But the true masterpiece of human strategy wasn't the military victories, or even the freed slaves. It was the shift in perspective spreading across the galaxy. Species that had accepted Concordat rule as an unchangeable fact of existence began to question. Stories spread of humans teaching other races to fight back, to resist, to think beyond their chains. In the Grand Hall on Axiom Prime, High Chancellor Vorkath received another report of rebellion spreading to a previously stable sector. His exoskeleton cracked further as he realized the terrible truth. The humans weren't just fighting the Concordat. They were dismantling the very foundations of fear that had kept the Empire together for millennia. The art of fear, perfected by the Concordat over centuries of oppression, was being turned against its masters. And humanity, it seemed, were proving to be even better artists. Revolution's echo. The massive station known as Haven floated in the void of a nameless system, far from established Concordat trade routes. Originally a derelict mining platform, it had been transformed by human engineers into something unprecedented. The first gathering place for representatives of 24 formerly enslaved species. Admiral Chen stood before the assembled delegates in Haven's central chamber. The diversity of life forms was staggering. Crystalline beings, energy matrices contained in environmental suits, various humanoids, and even gaseous intelligences in specialized chambers, all united by a single common factor. They had tasted freedom, and they wanted more. The Concordat is weakening, Chen addressed the gathering. Their control infrastructure is failing, but they're still dangerous, perhaps most dangerous now, as they grow desperate. That's why we're here. Humanity cannot defeat them alone, nor should we. This must be a united effort. A Caxa representative, their bioluminescent patterns showing intense emotion, spoke up. You've given us tools, weapons, knowledge. But the Concordat still controls the Forge. The Forge, the massive manufacturing complex in the Antares system, was the heart of Concordat military production. Its automated factories produced the ships and weapons that maintained their dominion over the galaxy. As long as it remained operational, the Concordat could replace their losses indefinitely. That's why we're here, Chen smiled. It's time to show you what humanity has really been preparing for. The holographic display activated, showing not just the Nemesis, but an entire fleet of similar vessels emerging from quantum locks. Dark hulls that drank in light, advanced weapon systems that defied conventional physics, and crews composed of both humans and liberated species working together. While the Nemesis drew their attention, we were building. Each freed population contributed knowledge, resources, and volunteers. The fleet you see before you represents the combined effort of every species in this room. The chamber erupted in excited communication. Energy beings pulsed with intense light, crystalline forms resonated with complex harmonics, and various species expressed their amazement in their own unique ways. That's when Aria's avatar materialized urgently beside Chen. Admiral, priority alert. The Concordat has launched a massive assault on the Rigel colonies. They're targeting civilian populations, a terror campaign to reassert control. The chamber fell silent. The Rigel colonies were crucial waypoints for the rebellion, housing millions of freed slaves. If they fell, it would be a devastating blow to the resistance. Chen's expression hardened. Then we strike now. The forge will be heavily defended, but they've committed significant forces to Rigel. This is our chance. She turned to the assembled delegates. Will you stand with us? The response was unanimous. Within hours, the combined fleet, now dubbed the Free Species Alliance, made its move. Over 200 ships, led by the Nemesis, emerged from quantum lock in the Antares system. The Forge's orbital defense grid was formidable. Thousands of automated weapons platforms, energy shields that could repel conventional fleets, and a defensive fleet of Concordat's most advanced warships. High Admiral Zextal, recently reassigned to defend this crucial installation, felt his mandibles twitch as the enemy fleet appeared. So, the humans finally show their true numbers. All units, engage. Protect the Forge at all costs. The battle that followed would be spoken of for centuries. The Alliance fleet moved with impossible coordination, their quantum-locked hulls making targeting nearly impossible. Cascade weapons rippled through space, creating localized areas where Concordat technology simply ceased to function. But it was more than just superior technology. Each Alliance ship crew combined the strengths of multiple species. Crystalline beings interfaced directly with sensor systems, their natural computational abilities enhancing targeting. Energy beings merged with shield systems, adapting defenses in real time. Humans provided tactical innovation and unpredictability. The Nemesis led the charge, its advanced AI coordinating the entire fleet's movements. Chen watched as decades of planning came to fruition. The Concordat fleet fought with desperate ferocity, but they were facing something they'd never encountered, a force that combined the strengths of every species they'd ever oppressed. Multiple breaches in the Forge's defensive grid, Araya reported. Alliance boarding teams are encountering heavy resistance, but advancing steadily. Quantum viruses are spreading through their production systems. Zextal watched in horror as the impossible unfolded. The Forge's defenses, believed impregnable, were falling. But what truly terrified him was the realization that this wasn't just a military defeat, it was the death of an idea. The idea that any one species could maintain dominion through force and fear. As the battle reached its climax, Chen broadcast on all frequencies. To all Concordat forces, your production center is lost. Your mythology of superiority ends today. The Free Species Alliance offers you this one chance. Surrender, or be remembered as the last defenders of a dying tyranny. The Forge, symbol of Concordat military might for centuries, fell in less than 6 hours. As Alliance forces secured the massive facility, Chen received word that the Concordat assault on Rigel had been called off. Every available ship was being recalled to defend Axiom Prime. The Revolution's echo was about to become a thundering crescendo. Dawn of freedom. Axiom Prime hung in space like a jewel, its crystalline surface refracting the light of 3 suns. For millennia, it had been the unassailable seat of Concordat power, a symbol of their absolute authority over the galaxy. Now it was their last bastion. The combined fleets of the Free Species Alliance filled the space around the planet, their dark hulls forming a net of liberation. The HSS Nemesis held position at the fleet's center, its presence a reminder of how far they'd come since that first strike into Concordat space. In the Grand Hall of the Supreme Council, High Chancellor Vorkath faced the inevitable. His exoskeleton, once pristine, now bore the stress fractures of impending defeat. The remaining counselors huddled around him, their former arrogance replaced by naked fear. "They're hailing us," announced a junior officer, their voice trembling. The hologram that materialized showed not just Admiral Chen, but representatives from every species in the Alliance. Former slaves stood proudly beside their human allies, each bearing the marks of their newfound freedom. High Chancellor. Chen's voice carried no mockery, only certainty. Your empire is finished. The Forge is repurposing its production lines to rebuild what you destroyed. Your slave worlds have risen. Your fleet is in ruins. Surrender, and let us end this without further bloodshed. Vorkath's response was immediate and surprising. He laughed. It was a hollow sound, filled with centuries of accumulated arrogance. You think this is victory? You've unleashed chaos upon the galaxy. Without our guidance, without our control, everything will collapse into anarchy. A Caxar representative stepped forward, their bioluminescence pulsing with controlled anger. We built your empire. We mined your resources, operated your factories, developed your technologies, all under the lash of your guidance. We don't need you to show us how to live. The galaxy doesn't need masters, Chen added. It needs cooperation, mutual respect, and freedom. Humanity didn't come to replace you as rulers. We came to end the very concept of galactic tyranny. That's when Vorkath revealed his final gambit. If we cannot rule, his mandibles clicked with malicious intent, then no one will. He activated a hidden control panel, and alarms began blaring throughout the planet. Aria's avatar appeared instantly beside Chen. They're activating some form of quantum destabilization device. Analysis suggests it could create a cascade reaction, destroying not just Axiom Prime, but potentially spreading through their entire network of quantum gates. The death toll would be catastrophic. But humanity hadn't come unprepared. As Vorkath's finger moved to initiate the sequence, he found his controls unresponsive. The entire Concordat network had been subtly infiltrated during the battle for the Forge, their quantum systems now under Alliance control. Did you think we wouldn't be ready for this? Chen's voice was quiet but carried immense weight. Your own technology, improved upon, and turned against you. One last lesson in the price of underestimating others. The defense systems of Axiom Prime, thought impregnable, powered down one by one. The planet's shields collapsed, and Alliance ships began landing across its surface. Centuries of Concordat rule ended not with a bang, but with a whimper. In the days that followed, the work of rebuilding began. The Free Species Alliance transformed the Grand Hall into a place of true cooperation. Representatives from all species, including reformed Concordat worlds, gathered to forge a new galactic society, one built on mutual respect and shared progress. Admiral Chen stood in the same observation deck where she had watched the Nemesis's construction, now looking out at the bustling shipyards of Titan Base Alpha. But these yards were different now. Beings from across the galaxy worked alongside humans, combining their knowledge and skills to build ships of exploration rather than war. You know, Captain Rodriguez's hologram appeared beside her. Some say we should have taken control ourselves. That humanity proved we deserve to rule. Chen shook her head. That was never the point. The galaxy didn't need new rulers. It needed to be free of rulers altogether. Our job wasn't to conquer, but to catalyze. On 1,000 worlds, former slaves were building new lives. The Forge now produced tools of peace and progress. The Quantum Gate Network, once used to control and suppress, carried trade and cultural exchange, and the HSS Nemesis, the ship that had started it all, was being refitted for a new mission, to explore the unknown regions of space, not as conquerors or rulers, but as equals among the stars. The dawn of freedom had arrived, and with it came the real challenge, not defeating an empire, but building something better in its place. Humanity had shown the galaxy that true strength lies not in domination, but in liberation, and in doing so, they had helped forge a future where no species would ever again bow to tyranny. The story of the human liberation of the galaxy would be told for generations, not as a tale of conquest, but as a reminder that the greatest victories come not from subjugating others, but from helping them break their own chains.